and welcome. I'm Bonnie Steepleton, Director of Student and Career Services from the University of New Mexico School of Law. Welcome to our podcast. And today we have Professor Barbara Creel, and she's going to talk about letters of recommendation. Welcome and thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Barbara Creel. I am from the Pueblo of Jemez and a University of New Mexico School of Law grad, and really happy to be here, Bonnie.
Thank you so much. So in my department, of course, Career Services, we help students with their application for jobs. And one important and major component is the letter of recommendation. And you as a professor often write them. So I appreciate you being here today to talk about your thoughts on that process. So in terms of letters of recommendation, we use them for judicial clerkships, fellowships, job applications, and also character and fitness statements for the bar examination in all the states. What do you have to say about letters of recommendation? Where should we start this conversation?
Really great introduction. This is the season, right?
Yes.
The time and the timing to ask for LORs for short. And what I want to say is that I came to this topic with you for a really not selfish reasons as a professor, but we'll get there. But more thinking about the student, because I remember when I was a student and how difficult this was to reach out to people that I was either intimidated by or embarrassed. And I want to make it accessible for students to be thinking about clerkships and fellowships and job applications, but thinking about them early on and in their law school career from day one, how this is going to look. And not in a manipulative way, but in how can I support you as a law student, knowing that eventually you're going to want to get a job.
Yes.
So that's how I come to this.
So I appreciate that because I do orientation also in my office. And one of the things we say in orientation, and I'm not sure if students are ready to hear it yet, but your law school career, your legal career really begins the first day of law school. And for us, we're so friendly and welcoming. Professors often participate in orientation. Now that it's COVID, of course, we don't have the same model, but in olden times, we'd have a big lunch and everybody'd sit together and get to know each other. And those are not contrived. Those are natural ways to begin a relationship with a professor. So that to me is really the key. And I appreciate what you just said about that. So what would you advise a student then in terms of their path through law school as they go?
Well, I actually have developed sort of a checklist, and I'm going to ask students that are listening to this to develop their own. And it starts with that whole idea of who, what, when, and how, right? And so first, I think, who do you ask? I'm always honored when students ask me to do a letter of recommendation or even the character and fitness statement for the bar. It takes time to write a good letter of recommendation. So you want to ask someone who you have a good relationship with and someone who wants to take that time to support you. And so I think that goes back to what you just said. Someone that knows you well enough to say nice things about you, not just nice things, but really excellent things. You want your letter of recommendation to glow. And so you want to ask someone that you have a relationship with and that's going to say just wonderful, important things about you. So that's back to building a relationship with a faculty member.
So how do students build relationships with professors?
We've said it in before, and that is come to office hours, talk to your professors, ask questions in class. In class, I always get the same 2 or 3 people asking questions, and I am loath to cold call myself because I remember what that felt like, but I want to give opportunities. And so I try to give other opportunities for student participation, whether that's in live discussions or in group work or after class. And inevitably, I get students that come after class and ask wonderful questions that I wish they would have asked in front of everyone. And so I tell them, if you're thinking about this in class, 99% of the rest of the class which is the whole class. right? If you had this question, that means I missed something.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore that's something that I can improve upon. But also we're worried about looking smart or not looking smart in class, or doing the reading or not doing the reading. And so asking the question is a really good way to clarify what the material is. And when you do get cold called, and I can still remember when I got cold called, and I wished I would have thought of having the confidence to answer, because sometimes I would be stuck on what the professor just said, mm-hmm. and mulling that over in my mind. And then I'd get called, and I wish I had the wherewithal to say, I'm sorry, I'm still thinking about what you just said about offer and acceptance, mm-hmm. or I'm still thinking about what you just said about deliberation. And then what was your question again, or something like that. But I would just I don't know. So there is a way to have this conversation. And I think that after class is one of the ways, during class is another. But the best relationships that I have with students are ones in which we can be a little bit vulnerable with each other.
That's true.
And I'll give you an example if you want.
Yeah, sure.
I had a student that came to me talking because she saw something in me that she identified with, and said she wanted to share something with me. And I said, you know what? I have that same issue. It's called imposter syndrome. And I have to prove myself over and over again because of these reasons. And we had a moment, and we talked about what it was like to be on that side of the classroom and feeling a certain way. She was the only person of color in the class, and how I felt on this side of the classroom. And that led to more discussions about our backgrounds and our lives. And it really helped me see ways in which I could present the material and be present and be vulnerable and create relationships.
Oh, that's really touching. And I've not read many of the letters because they're confidential, but when I have the chance, and it's approved, I'm struck by our professors who make an effort it's like a snowflake. Every letter is different, regardless of how long they've been a professor or for whom they're writing. And I'm struck by that. I'm in awe of that each time. And that made me think of that when you talked about this interaction with your student, because they have something to draw from. And they're not going to say something in the letter that's inappropriate or too personal, but it puts a flavor into the letter that's really invaluable. And I think it really helps our students with their applications. So I really appreciate that you said that, because it's not just a transactional thing, like we keep saying, it's a relationship thing, most of all. So I really appreciate what you said. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that we want the letters to be individualized and tailored. And so that takes time. That time it's spent writing and getting it right. But it also is based on that relationship and the work that the student needs to do to prepare the faculty member to write the letter.
Well, should we shift gears to more nuts and bolts then? We could talk a little bit about what you need as a recommender in order to do your best.
Go back to this checklist that I was telling you about, that I really love it when students ask me first and don't assume, and then we go back and forth. But if we started with a checklist, and so what I've started doing now is asking students, great, I'd love to do your letter. If there's enough time, can I send you what I need in order to do an excellent piece of writing for you? And if they say yes, then I send them my checklist, which is, I ask them to draft a sort of a message, a note to me, telling me what they want me to do, the best ways to contact them, and the best times to contact them if I have need to follow up, and then what they want me to focus on. What you, Bonnie, would call, what's your dream? What is the top goal that you're trying to seek here? And be detailed and be effusive. I also need the deadline for the final letter right up front.
Mm-hmm.
portals or information to submit the letter. If there's a link and it's confidential and I send it, or if I give it back to the student and they send it, or if there's some other type of process. I need the name of the person or entity that I'm submitting the letter to. And I'm talking full name, correct spelling, title, address, zip code, email address. If there is, like, I want you to send it to hiring partner, Marge Simpson at the, XYZ law firm on Springfield Lane, all the way down. And that way I know who I'm contacting and who my audience is. And then also any support that I need for writing the letter. What helps me is I tell the student is, yes, I remember you in clinic. You were excellent. You created this whole package of information and you represented this client. What else am I missing? And I let them tell me nice things about themselves because I want to capture it all. I don't want to miss anything. And then what else do you want to tell me about yourself? Copy of the application itself for the fellowship, the job description, and if they want, perhaps a transcript, if they want to, if it's supposed to be based on their grades. Definitely a resume.
And I really like that you mentioned the job description being provided, because for me, I was in state government for a while. I was mediation bureau chief at workers' comp. And what I learned in that job is when you're hiring, the applicant has to put in the keywords in their application that are from the job description, or they don't even make the cut to the list that you can interview someone. So it was really frustrating because sometimes I get their resume and it was perfect and it had everything in there I wanted, but on the actual portal where they put the description, those keywords were missing. Like, had they ever mediated in their life? It didn't appear to be so from the application that goes into the portal, but it was somewhere else. So if students include the job description, the professors can then key in on those skills and strengths that the students have that the employers are looking for. So even if it's not a robot like this was, where it's being filtered through a system, the reader is going to see those things. And even subconsciously, I think it helps them to choose one student over the other if it's a good fit, straight up on the skills. So thanks for that.
Bingo. Yeah, bingo. Was that an optical character reader?
I think they do. I don't even know exactly how they do it,
Yeah.
but everything gets fed through the computer and then they spit out this list, and it's a ranked list of all the applicants, 1 to infinity.
Yes.
And you choose a cutoff that you're going to interview. And then if you don't hire from above that cut, you have to justify why you didn't hire all of those above. And it's all these hidden things that go into a hiring process that people may not know.
Yes.
That takes so long and is so complicated. And one thing I keep picking up from you is how much time it takes to write a good letter of recommendation. It takes hours, I'm sure. How much time do you think you spend?
It does. It takes hours. It would take me all week if I was settling down over spring break. Not all day, every day, but a couple hours a day. I would say 6, 8, 10 hours to write a good letter.
So it's a real commitment on a professor.
It's a commitment. Yeah, it's a commitment. And talking about the job applications that you described, we did that in federal applications as well. And you're right; it just picks up certain words and it ranks you based on how well your resume and
it's insane because like I said, the best fit might be someone completely different than what you get off the list. So
yes,
it's an important nuance that everyone is trying to pay attention to, and I appreciate that. Okay, so we talked about what you need. You need to know what their dream is, and that I stole from Professor Gibson Rankin, and I thank her for that again. If you haven't looked, or her podcast on going to office hours is on our list, so go check that one out. A transcript, copy the job description, your resume, what your dream is. So after that happens, what happens next at that point?
It really depends on their, in that opening message that, to me, do they say, yes, I'd like it back, and then I'm going to upload it on this special link, or the job description says you do it separately. Mm-hmm. I will sometimes give them a copy after I've uploaded it so that they know what I said about them, or we could talk about it. But yeah, most of these things are confidential and go directly. to the source, which goes back to our original point that you really want to make sure you're asking someone who's going to give you, without a doubt, a glowing reference.
Yes. And I did want to mention too that there are different processes where these letters get processed by my office too. For example, the most important for us is judicial clerkship applications.
Yes.
Because those are super confidential. And generally speaking, the student does not even submit that letter themselves. Again, because of COVID and the way things have changed with now everything's electronic. In the older days, we would have had a hard copy of that letter, like I described. You would send it to our assistant director, Desiree Ramirez. She keeps that in a file for the student, and she may have several from different professors. Then the student is to provide her with a spreadsheet of where the applications are going with the same kind of information, whether it's a hard copy or electronic, what the deadline is, the address, the contact, and all that stuff. And then she compiles all that. And if you have 30 students who are doing applications and each have 10 or more applications, I'm not good at math, but you can see how that adds up too. It's crazy. So she processes those and then does as instructed, which is either to get you to sign your hard copy, package it, seal it, give it to the student in a sealed way, put in their application packet that they mail by snail mail, or it goes separately electronically to that chambers or office where then it's processed. So it worked for students too. I guess for me, my advice to a student is to keep a spreadsheet or a checklist like you have that tracks everything so that nothing falls through the cracks, because there's so many opportunities for us to do that. It's good if more than one of us is trying to manage that process. So the professors have always been lovely and cooperative, and we appreciate you guys and all you do for our students. It's really an important component of an application for a student to have.
I did want to say something else, Bonnie, about this timing and relationship. And that is, if it is a tight deadline, I have had students ask me when it's a super tight deadline. And I will say that when I can, I make it work. So don't hesitate. I've done it before, have to get something done quickly and didn't realize the deadline was coming up and still wanted to do it, and went ahead and asked someone that I knew that I could trust. And she said, no, but how about this other person? And then I followed up with that person and she was able to help me. And so I always think about her. And when someone asks me on a tight deadline, and say, well, someone helped me in the past, I'm going to do this. But in that case, it really helps to get all of this information to the professor right away. And I've even asked students to draft a copy of the letter, meaning put it in a letter template, put the addressee, the subject line, and my signature line in there, and then I draft the body, is what I mean. So that it really comes together a lot quicker that way.
The jumping off point for you.
Yeah, it gives me something to feel like, okay, I've gotten this. And that way I know all the names are spelled properly and I have the addresses and I could just add in the content.
It makes sense. Yeah. Well, we've covered a lot, I think. I'm going to attach your checklist to this presentation because it'll be processed by our media center to be fancy with our little intro and all that stuff. And then I will also post that checklist on Connect, which is our internal system that we use to house these kinds of things. And I really appreciate having that to give to students.
Great.
Was there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, the bar character and fitness is just a form. And so I think students might leave that to the last minute and think it's pretty easy. And it is pretty simple. Basically, we're saying that we know whoever signs the form is saying that they know this person and have worked with them or supervised them, and that experience, and then whether they have a flaw in their character that would disqualify them, or whether they can say, yes, they are qualified to enter the bar. And for me, it helps when someone asks me to do that, to send me the link and tell me whether they want me to upload the letter to the state bar, or if they're going to do it within their package, or if they want me to do a hard copy because they're doing turning it in by hand. It also helps if you fill out the form for me, meaning you put your name in there. your full name, because sometimes people have unique spellings or use their full name. I used my first, middle, and last name, and then it becomes really simple for the professor. But yeah, even those things, it helps to give your reference a little bit of time to do that. And then finally, I just got an email from a hiring partner for someone that I'm pretty sure I had like 10 years ago. And I don't know where this person is or what he or she has done. So I'm going to have to track down that student and ask them, how can I ask them for more information so that I could be a good reference. If they want me to talk about the work that they did in clinic, I can do that, but I need a refresher.
Boy, that's a really great point I hadn't even thought of. And thank you for that, which is we at the law school serve everyone, I like to say, cradle to grave, meaning that once you enter law school, we have you forever. And in my office, we provide service to alumni who are looking for jobs. And it didn't even occur to me that, of course, they'll be asking you for letters too, even 5, 10 more years later. So that begs the question, shouldn't people be thinking about maintaining that relationship once they graduate?
I definitely have really great friendships with students, and we connect. They come as guest speakers to my class, things like that. But this was just sort of unexpected. I guess sometimes I will get a request from like the New York State Bar because clinic is considered an employer, and that'll come out of the blue. I don't begrudge those because the students, are on their way applying to the state bar and needs this reference. But this was, if a job reference, you kind of need to give anybody a heads up that you put their name down.
That would be a normal thing to do.
But yes, lifelong relationships are wonderful. And I really do have some beautiful students in my life now that are doing just fabulous work. And I lean on them sometimes, and definitely we give each other advice because we're colleagues now.
Well, this has been really wonderful. I really thank you for your time. It's an important topic. I hope you students will be thinking about your letters, and now is the time, go see a professor, say hi, even just say hi. We're all social beings, and the artificial separation that we're all suffering from is really difficult, but don't let that stop you.
Yes. Yeah. It's actually a good time to check in with your professor, make sure she's okay. And get out there and look at the fellowships that you might be eligible for next year and think about what you want to do. Talk to professors about what fellowships are available, what job trajectories are available, because we do want to help you and we are here for you.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you again soon.